That's awesome. I want to sort of re-say something that you said there that I think is pretty profound. You created a game framework. You have done it for dozens, hundreds, I don't know how many, a lot of companies, very effectively, by any measure that I can see. Then you created your own game, Octalysis Prime, and now it's become your primary recruiting tool, not by a little, but by a lot, if it's 7 out of 8. So that's pretty extraordinary, because interviewing people is not the funnest thing for anybody who wants to hire someone. It's not fun for the interviewees either, right? So this is pretty profound that you found a way that's a learning management system, but it's also a game to identify and successfully hire new employees for Octalysis Group. So I would definitely applaud you for that in a future of work context. Has there been any one kind of big lesson in that process over time that you would identify beyond what you've said already?
Whenever you start something new, there's a variety of lessons. I think the big lesson, because a lot of things are technical lessons, I think the big, maybe emotional, directional lesson is still take risks, overcome fear. Because to be honest, when I was starting Octalysis Prime and also Metablogs, I felt this fear inside of me. And it's because I have a reputation now. People regard me as, number 1, number 2, top 3 gamification expert in the world, and they study my stuff. And so when I was a nobody, I could try a lot of new things, and if fails, doesn't matter. It was fun. I grow from that. But then I was concerned that, well, what if I launch my own project? And sometimes I'm still very stretched, right? Because I'm juggling many things. For whatever reason, let's say it doesn't go as well, it fails miserably. Would people start saying, okay, why are we learning from Yu-Kai? Like, his stuff isn't that great. It sucks, right? So I had that fear that I didn't have once I became more reputable. And I had to overcome it by really going into the mindset of, people don't really care. It's like, yeah, maybe one person a few people say, hey, that Yu-Kai, like, surprising, his project actually failed. It's not that good. Oh, well, what are we going to eat for breakfast? That's literally just like a 10-second thing in people's dialogue. Like, why should I be so scared of those 10 seconds that I'm preventing myself from pursuing what I want to do in my life? Right. And so that's why I think it's important, just take a leap of faith, do what is meaningful to you. You don't really lots of people get yelled at all the time, right? You look at Elon Musk, you look at obviously Donald Trump, not to say he's the most respectable person, but a lot of people criticize them, they yell at them, everyone gets yelled at, and they just do their thing, right? And so for people like at least me and people similar to me, I think having any of that affect how we're going to live our lives is not wise. So just think about what makes your life more meaningful and pursue it. And I think that's the more non-technical lesson that I've been acquiring.
Yeah, that's deeply important. I try to teach my kids the same. I have 3 young boys, 12, 9, and 5, and I try to tell them, don't let fear dictate what you will or won't do. You've got to try, right? And that's where you do your most learning, even if you fail. And so that's fantastic. The next thing is a little bit heavier subject, but I think that in general, we could take a quick look at it. Yesterday, I was on Twitter and I saw a new game came out, and this fun little game written with Unreal Engine and deployed in a matter of days since a war began in Ukraine, allows you to take a tractor and drive out of your little plot of land and grab a tank that has run out of gas and tow it back to your shed. Obviously, they're making a little bit of fun of the Russian troops who have had some supply line problems in their invasion. So leaving aside invasion, right, wrong, any of that, that's not what I'm going after here. But the fact that someone in a matter of days deployed a game as effectively a piece of propaganda to gamify something that has been buzzy in the news, I thought that was pretty extraordinary. And so they've gamified propaganda. To a degree, they're gamifying war. What do you think about that?
Yeah, actually, this goes into an article I wrote many, many years ago. And it was a response to another article that was written about IDG, I believe, the defense force in Israel. They gamified, quote unquote, war by having, people go onto their war effort website and just like give them like thumbs up and promote it and share with friends, and they get points. And there's like, oh, this is way too much, like gamifying war. It's wrong. And my statement there is that, and it could be controversial, is that there is nothing actually wrong gamifying war. In fact, games kind of mimic war. It's not that you turn war into a game. It's that games like to mimic war. Most games, a lot of games people play, right? It's like fighting, battle, tanks, and all that stuff. And where does the badging system come from? It comes from the military, right? And ranks and titles. A lot of that is from military. In the early days, when in the tribal times, people collect their score by collecting skulls, that's gamification, right? And so I want to say that during wartime, people do because the impacts are great, lives could be lost, right? People do a lot of things that are terrible, right? They torture, they kill, they punish, like they bomb people. All those things are terrible, but if you truly believe you're trying to protect your own countrymen, that's accepted. So and when you're a soldier in the battlefield, you feel lonely, you feel scared, you could die anytime. You're thinking about your children. I think the least someone can do or is say, hey, look, your countrymen are cheering for you, and if they cheer for you, they get some kind of gamified rewards or they feel good about it. I don't see anything wrong with that specifically. To just talk about like, hey, this is where we feel about the war, and we want to encourage and comfort our soldiers, etc. I mean, it doesn't matter if you support that kind of war or not. It's really about, you care about the people who put their lives on the line because they're following the orders, and they're just like us. And then for that article, I made a comparison. I said, because like, oh, it's so evil, it's so bad, why would you ever do this? Like, hey, look, the US is really spoiled, right? We don't really have any wars on US soil. Some countries, they're invaded, they're attacked, they're bombed every single month. And yeah, the US was attacked once, 9/11. And I showed them, remember the news when Osama bin Laden was actually killed, the whole US was celebrating, parties, drinks, everyone was happy, right? Yeah. And you could say like, oh, why is that okay? But gamifying the war, like propaganda, is not. So I think there's a double standard. I think it's hard to empathize how people feel in that environment, and then say like, hey, if gamification actually helps them feel better, I personally don't. Now, of course, there's a lot of wrong ways to use gamification in war, and this goes back to our technical stuff. Desired actions. Are you motivating people to do criminal things through gamification, or you motivate them to do things like encouraging people, helping people, supporting effort, whatnot? So, so like we talked about, there's always the intent of the gamification, and that there's a lot of questions on morality on that. That could be like a 3-hour conversation all by itself.
I know. I was thinking about the question of what game techniques, what feedback mechanics and desired actions might we seek for a speedier resolution. War, let's just say, it's happened for all of human history. But what could we do? Is there anything that we could do to try to drive a speedier resolution through gamification?
Yeah, I think right now a lot of it is core-driven loss and avoidance design with the sanctions. But I think the most effective thing is literally letting people lose the will to fight, to invade. And I think because it's happening on Ukraine's soil and it's invited. And I think it's happening, a lot of the Russian soldiers, they just don't have the will to do this. They don't want to do this. I think that's part of why it's not going as well. So one side, they're defending their country, right? They're protecting their homes. That's core drive one, epic meaning and calling. And the other side is like, oh, if I go back to my country, I might get punished severely, right? That's core drive loss and avoidance. And core drive loss and avoidance is very powerful, but very strong core driven epic meaning calling trumps that, like things you believe in so much you're willing to give up your life for it. And I think core drive one is inspiring. So that's why Ukraine is inspiring the world. That's why the world's supporting Ukraine, because of Zelensky. He used to be an actor, right? So he's good at inspiring people. Yeah, because this is not the first time, like Russia invaded, parts of Ukraine and also other places. And at that time, the world didn't care as much, because I think it's because there wasn't a leader who's so good at almost theatrically getting the world to care. Zelensky would say, they're going to see our faces instead of our backs, right? I don't need a right, I need ammunition, right? And so so I think that's actually a skill that you acquire as the president when he was an actor, and that became something that, of course, his courage is his own, right? That bravery, it's not, it's just he has to find it within. But I think the things he's done in his past, he was a lawyer and then he's an actor. I think those help him actually say I don't know what's the end result yet, but it seems like he's saving his country up to this point because of that. And I have this whole thing about turning your life into an RPG game. So think about investing your rights to skill points, growing your role and having the right alliances. So I even want to include that as a case study in my second book, 10,000 hours of play.
Oh yeah, I mean, you put in a lot more than, we hope you put in more than 10,000 hours in life. So that's the one you should be getting the best at if you're doing it right, I would have to think. That's fantastic. Look, you made me think as you were talking there. You've got your 8 core drives. They're divided between white hat and black hat. It's almost like one side is all black hat and one side is all white hat. Almost, it's, if we could mix that up and balance those a little bit on both sides, then that might do that action of sort of approaching an end game that hopefully has a better desired outcome than lots more death. But I don't know. That's a thought I'll have to sit with a little bit more. But I hadn't thought about it that way previously. So thanks for that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's always, some people have said once they learned the Octalysis framework, it's like being unplugged from the matrix. Everywhere they see green code, it's like, oh, that's core drive 3, that's core drive 7, that's core drive 5.
Yeah.
And and I think, and most people find that very enjoyable, like life itself becomes a game you're looking through.
That's true. I've only experienced that a few times, and your framework is one of them. One of the frameworks of my co-founder at OpenEXO, Salim Ismail, wrote a book called Exponential Organizations, and that's another situation where once you learn that framework, it impacts everything you do. The Art of Scalability was a book on the scalability of technology systems. That one also did the same thing to me. Peter Drucker, The Effective Executive, same thing. There's been very few books. I mean, I can count them on now 2 hands, but there are a few out there.
I probably introduced the second hand.
yeah, you're one of them. That's right. So, and thanks for that. It's been really an awesome journey for me. Yu-Kai, you've been incredibly generous with your time today. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're going to bring this down to a close. Today, we talked about the Octalysis framework. We've even talked about war. We've talked about your MetaBlocks project. We talked about Octalysis Prime. We covered a lot of ground today. If people want to know more about you and more about your work, can you give them the best path to go and find out more and explore Octalysis and gamification in general?
Yeah, I think my personal blog, yukaichui.com, is where I share my thoughts, and you see some of my history. And if that the other alternatives, just go on YouTube and search Gamification TED Talk, and you'll find my TEDx. That's a 17-minute way to kind of see what I'm about. Yeah,
there's an hour-and-a-half version too that I at Google that's really good as well if you're really committed. I don't remember how many points I got for that, but it was pretty good. All right. Well, with that, Yu-Kai, we're going to bring it to a close. Thank you so much again. Really, really appreciate it. And I wish you all the best of luck with all of your projects. And I think you're onto something cool there with MetaBlocks.
Thank you.
We'll see.
You're an excellent interviewer. You have some of the most interesting questions.
Thank you.
For watching. That was just part 2 of 3. So get ready and stay tuned for part 3 and the series finale with Yu-Kai Chou. Be sure and subscribe and hit the like button to be notified when part 3 releases.